Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. This is part two of the Clark gas station story. So I was interrupted during the story, so now I'm on part two of it. But what had happened is he gets out on parole, and he gets out, a lot earlier than what his out date was for doing the crime that he did. And for those of you who's just now listening to this, you're gonna have to check out part one so you can see where I'm at. But I'll go ahead and fill you in, and just in case, But anyways, this guy knew he got a rifle of his dad, sawed it off, went down the alley. They lived in Southgate, Michigan. Went down the alley, hid behind the garbage can at Clark gas station. And then he has a ski mask on, and then he goes in there and robs the gas station. Goes back home. The guy knows who he is because he just lived like a half a block down from the Clark gas station in Southgate. And but anyways, then he sends the police to his house, and they arrest him, for robbing the Clark gas station with a sawed-off weapon. And I think for him to get that ideal to do something like that, had to be off of, a police show on TV, or a movie he went and seen, or something like that, because the guy was living good. His they was like upper middle class, and parents both had good jobs, and he had a brother, and they lived in a good home and good neighborhood at the time and stuff. So the only thing I could think of, I was meaning to ask him about it, but I never did. But what inspired him to do something crazy like that. But anyways, my guess is he got it off TV or a movie that he went and seen or something, and decided thought he would go do it because his dad had hunting guns in the house, in a gun rack and stuff like that. So and also it could have been, it's definitely his dad's guns, but it could have been his gun, like, way back when, guys that went hunting and stuff like that, deer hunting and stuff like that, a lot of times they'd have a collection of guns. They would buy one for their kids if, they was taking them hunting with them, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it was belonged to his dad, but it could have been his gun. I'm not for sure on the details of that. But he ended up, sawing the gun off and taking it down there, robbing the Clark gas station in Southgate, Michigan, years back. And then the guy knew who he was, even though he had a mask. I don't know if the guy knew his voice or recognized the shoes he had on, or how the guy. I would say the guy knew his voice, to be honest with you, just by guessing. But it was just something crazy he did at the spur of the moment. And I'm sure he wished, after it was all said and done, that he wished he would have never did it. But once you do something like that, it's too late. You got to pay the consequences. You know what I mean? But anyways, he gets a ton of years in jail for that, for a strong arm robbery of a Clark gas station in Southgate, Michigan. And he does a shit ton of years, but he ends up getting out a little bit early from his out date, probably on parole, whatever. And then once he gets out for many years and he's off parole and everything, then, we end up hooking up, me and him and his brother and my brothers, and, everybody just hooking up in the neighborhood. And we go to, go get a beer and talk and stuff like that. Then I ran into him another time over by the Fort Greene police station in that neighborhood over there in Detroit City. Because actually he was living over there at the time. And he was staying up in an upstairs apartment. And me and my street brother was walking down the street. And then he yells at me. I didn't hear him. My brother heard him, and he said, "Hey, that guy's yelling for you." And I turned and looked, and it was him. And he was actually living not too far from where we were living. But he just recognized me and stuff and yelled at me. So we, chopped it up with him a little bit there. And, I just seen him here and there. Then, seen him some more, as years passed. But I just wanted to share that story because that was a story that I was aware of, that I heard about, and I wasn't aware of what happened until after the fact. You know what I mean? Until I believe my parents told me about it, or I heard it, by them talking on the telephone or whatever. I don't remember. It's been so many years back. But anyways, it was somebody that we knew. And yeah, he had to go do a lot of years in jail. And I just remember asking my dad how much time did he get. And I think my dad said 25 or 30 years. And I was like, I couldn't believe that, because I was like, that seems like a whole lifetime, But my dad said, well, he what got him the most time is because he took the gun with him, and then he had it sawed off, and then he held up the Clark gas station in Southgate, Michigan, and it was just crazy. And he was a young man when he did that, so he probably wasn't even thinking right, you know what I mean? And my guess is he seen it on a movie or a TV show and just took it upon himself to try it, you know what I mean? And it cost him damn near his whole life. You know what I mean? So, those of you that's listening to this, if you ever have some thoughts, crazy thoughts like that, don't carry it out. Just, because it just ain't worth it, because you'll lose your whole life. And there's no amount of money worth giving, 25, 30 years of your life up. It's just, to me, there's no amount of money that, I could do something like that. So, and plus I would never do no crazy shit like that anyways. But I don't know what he was thinking at the time. But years later, I really wanted to know. I wanted to ask him if it come from a TV show or a movie, and I can almost put money on it. That's what happened. But I'm sure he regretted doing that, because then, he had his mom and dad and brother have to come and visit him all these years, that he's in there. And, then writing letters back and forth. It's that, parents sending him money that he needed and stuff like that. It's just a disaster for himself and a disaster for his family. And then all the people he knew, like his friends and everybody like that. It's just, and the reason I wanted to do this is it's part of my story, but also just to bring awareness to, young folks that, when you watch movies or go to the movie theater and see movies and they're doing something like this or whatever, or don't think that that's a reality that you can really go and do that. Because if you do that, any way, shape, or form, you're going to lose your life, because they're going to send you away for many, many years. So make sure you make good decisions in life. It's just real important not to do nothing that would get you in any sort of trouble, to be honest with you. It's just very important to stay on the right track. Do the right thing. Get a good job. And there's many jobs to get. But my thought is, if you want to listen to Slick from Detroit City, my thought is if you can get you a semi-truck driving job, that's great because that's decent money. Whatever kind of job you get, make sure it's a union company because that's going to be decent money and good health insurance and all that. So you could be anything. You can be a carpenter, a painter, a truck driver, just whatever. Just make sure it's a union company. That way you can get, you can get a decent wage and some decent medical insurance and stuff like that. And that would be my advice, to people as far as, getting in the workforce and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm retired now, but that's the kind of stuff that I went after myself, and that's why I would just tell my audience that's a good avenue to take, And some people, would do something different and just get a regular job non-union. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But I'm just saying my experience in the workforce, the union companies, I always made more money. I always had good insurance and things of that nature. So it was just a lot better avenue for me to take. And that's why I recommend it to my audience, Because it's real important to, make some good money, especially the way things are today. It's just everything's just so high, so expensive that, if you got a real low paying job, it is very, very hard to make it, So just keep that in mind. And also, if you got a low paying job and you want to do something better, check into what I'm talking about. Check into some union shops, especially, if you got a trade, if you know how to paint or you're a carpenter or whatever, or a truck driver, whatever the case may be, check into something like that while you got what I call a bullshit job. You know what I mean? And then don't never leave a job until you got another one, That way it don't leave no big gaps in between your work history and stuff like that. But Slick, he'll tell you the right way to go, and he's not going to guide you down the wrong path. And he's always going to, if you listen, you can thank me later because you're going to know that what I tell you is meaningful, it's the right thing. And I just wouldn't tell my audience nothing different but the right thing, that I'm aware of. So it's very important, to find, a decent employment and, and then what comes with that also is it comes with good insurance, comes with good pay, but then it also comes with job security, which means like if you're at just a regular job, there can be incidents where the supervisor just don't like you for whatever reason, and they'll just find a reason to let you go real quick. You know what I mean? And where a union job is totally different. It ain't like a regular job. They're gonna treat you with fairness, and you're gonna be Not saying you can't get in trouble, at a union company, but it's going to be longevity for you if you work at a union company. As long as you got to make sure you go to work and stuff like that. You can't just be laying out and all that, because then, yeah, that won't fly. You got to be dedicated, you know what I mean? And that's at anything you do. Make sure you're dedicated, just think about it. It's like mowing your grass. If you're going to mow your grass, are you going to mow the whole yard, or are you just going to mow half of it? You know what I mean? Or if you're shoveling snow, are you just going to shovel half your sidewalk and leave half of it undone? You know. So it's just common sense, basically. You got to definitely be dedicated. If you get something started, finish it, and that's the main thing. And especially if you got a union job and stuff, just make sure you go to work every day, and you'll see your growth, your wealth, and everything grow, and you'll see that eventually you're not struggling, even if you're struggling when you first get started. You know what I mean? But you'll see, a better path, and you can just say to yourself, Slick told me to do this and it's really working. You know what I mean? So make sure you do that. Have a good life, provide for you and your family, or if it's just you, whatever, but just provide for yourself real good, and treat people the way you want to be treated. Take care of yourself and others. If you see somebody in need, help them out, whether it's, buying them a cup of coffee or whatever it is. Just help them out if you're able to, and just, show kindness to people, and people will show kindness back to you. It goes a long ways, and, respect goes a long ways, things like that. So make sure you go down a good path. Don't take no wooden nickels for nobody, and just take advice from people that sound like they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Because there's some people that just would tell you all kind of stuff and ain't got a clue what they're talking about. So make sure you use judgment of where you get your advice from and things of that nature. And but always treat people the way you want to be treated. That's a must. And this is Detroit's Darkest Times. Stay cool, stay smooth, keep it real, and we're out.